Okay, welcome back. We are sorry that we skipped yesterday, but it's just that's just life. But today we continue on book 16, right, Chris?
Absolutely. Actually, let's take a second and talk about yesterday really fast. So yesterday,
Okay.
a reflection we're going to talk about in the future. That was our first day that we've missed connecting Monday through Friday since I don't know. It wasn't like a vacation or something like that where we agreed for balance sake to take some time off. But that was the first scheduled day that we've missed in like almost 2 years, and it was devastating. And it was because like a reflection we'll talk about in the future of I was running for trains, and we had there was a lot of trains that were going on in my life with the end of our fiscal year, and there was just a ton going on, and could not figure out a way to coordinate out the time, and it's disheartening. It's something that we've been working, that I've been working on personally my
Mm-hmm.
entire this entire journey since Amelia passed away, of making sure that I try to take ownership of my life and my values, and the activities that I'm doing. And this stuff is important to me. It's important to you. It's important to Blake. So yeah, I apologize for it, and this is a good lesson to learn. A real time lesson of
Right.
like sometimes the train catches you, but it's what you do the next day, and clean slate every day, right? Get a chance to do it again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about what you learn from what lesson you take away from the experience you have.
Exactly. So I will go ahead and share my screen then. We will do our book 16.
Yes, let's get into it.
So book 16 is, have you guys read either one of the read Range by David Epstein?
I have.
You have. Blake? Okay. So this is, I don't know, True. I mean, first high level take, did you enjoy the book or did you not?
I do. I do enjoy the book because there are some, I guess, perspectives and views that yeah, I guess it is benefited me somewhat, and it kind of get me to think about certain things. In general, I agree with the book, but there are certain things that I think there are exceptions to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we can get into it.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's a discussion with this book, but so the book is called Range: Why Generalists Triumph in a Specialized World by the author David Epstein. So basically, what Range is about is the author David Epstein looked at the world of the most successful athletes, artists, musicians, inventors, forecasters, and scientists, and he discovered, like as it says on here, that most fields, especially those that are really complex and unpredictable, it seems like generalists, not specialists, are primed to excel. And his theory in general is specialized people. Like I think of like Tiger Woods, right? He's a specialist. He's really good at golf. He he put in his 10,000 hours. He's dedicated to this his entire life, to trying to be the best he could possibly be at one particular domain in his life. Versus generalists are people that like to dabble in a lot of different things. They may like myself. I'm an author. I like to play tennis. I obviously have a regular job. We have a non-for-profit. We have all these other things. I'm not the best at anything, I wouldn't say, and I certainly have not specialized or planted my flag. However, the theory is, generalists, they acquire knowledge from all these different places, and then they can mash it up all together to put their creative output into the world, where it's a unique perspective that only can come from a lot of different range, basically, versus being hyper specialized on one particular topic. So my reflection off of that is life is a wicked environment. So what do I mean by that? In the book, the author David Epstein talks about wicked environments versus kind environments. A wicked environment, we'll start with a kind environment. A kind environment is one that you get, the rules are defined, you get feedback very accurate and quickly, and there's patterns repeat. So think things like chess or tennis or golf, or very very kind environments where there's rules, there's patterns, and there are things that you can really hone in on, and specialists really dominate in those areas. Certainly the more time you put into something with that kind of environment, the better you're going to be, and you're going to be better than other humans. A wicked environment, on the other hand, is one where there are no rules, there is no patterns, there is no I guess path to being great in it. And that's why I titled the title "Life is kind of like a wicked environment" in general. It doesn't matter how much time you put into one specific area of life. You're never, if you don't dabble in all different kinds of areas, you're never going to really truly, broaden your scope to be able to mash it all up together. And as we talked about for myself personally and in reflections past, the ability for us as humans, in a kind environment, computers can easily replace that. It's been shown time and time again that, if it's something that it does have defined patterns and rules, eventually, it doesn't matter how much we do, computers will ultimately win. In these wicked environments, I feel like that really helps us to unlock our superpowers as humans, which is our ability to take abstract concepts from all over the place and then to go mash them up all together and create this new beautiful thing that nobody's ever seen in this world. That's what makes us humans as unique, contributors to me in this world. Which therefore I feel like range is the way to go. Experience as much as you can, understand as much as you can, embrace humanity and what we're really good at. And then ultimately we're doing what we're here to do and we're living our purpose. So that's my typical, I guess, reflection for this particular topic of life is a wicked environment. And to succeed and thrive in that, you need to have range. You need to use our innate human skills and superpowers in order to survive and thrive in that environment. So I'll turn it over to you guys. Love to get your thoughts on the question here of, are you a specialist or a generalist, or do you believe that one is better than the other, or is it a blend between the two? I mean, love to get your guys' thoughts, like just at a high level of the topic of the book and also the question here.
So the question, are you a specialist or a generalist? I would say I am a more of a 70% specialist and a 30% generalist. I do tend to agree with the reflection. Life is a wicked environment. And in my mind, another word for wicked environment and kind environment, it's a simple versus complex.
Right.
A game of chess has specific static rules. In life, we don't really know what the rules are. We don't. There's so much we don't know. So to me, life is very unpredictable. It's so quote unquote wicked, just because I think that's. But in my mind, as a technical guy, I think it's a complex. It's very complex, very dynamic. That's what the word I would comes to my mind when I hear wicked environment. And
Right.
so because it's a wicked environment, we have to do trial and error, that to dabble in a lot of things to figure out what we're good at or what we can do, what works and what doesn't work, because there's not really rules we can say, hey, I'm going to do this and eventually I'll get there. I can circle around in a desert for 40 years and still don't find the land that I'm supposed to go. And so that's for me, is you want to have a little bit of a generalist, but because for example, Daniel Kahneman, he won the Nobel Prize for behavioral economics, even though he's a psychologist.
Right.
Because he's a
generalist.
Psychologist, but for the work and in the work and study that he did in that field, it actually applied much more to behavioral economics. So
Right.
only when he dabbles in different fields that he's able to find creative outlet and ideas from different variety of different experiences. So that to me, a journalist has that kind of benefit. But also a journalist is also a good thing. So beyond just saying, are you a specialist or journalist? And for me, it's about so go back to the title, why journalist triumphs in the generous world. You can flip it and do the opposite. Why? So because you are in a specialized world, a journalist would be rare, and so
Right.
you would benefit from being, the one that's not the common. Therefore, you have more. You're able to work with other specialists. Like, there's 10
Right.
specialists, nine specialists, and there's only need one generalist. So you need that generalist to bind all these guys together.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
so
point.
it has to be a mixture of things. But because we are at an age where there are so many specialists, being a generalist becomes, um, I guess, in demand, just
Right.
because there isn't everybody is trying to be the same, being specialized in something. But I think you specialize in something is actually pretty good in terms of, for example, Tiger Wood. You talk about Tiger Wood, if he's is not a specialist, then you wouldn't know the extremities of what human can do. For golf, you look at Tiger Wood. For somebody who runs a 4 minute mile, you look at that guy and you say, well, that's possible. These guys help you expand that horizon, and so you need both. And so that's my take on the two sides. But I agree with the book because it's true, because you are in a specialized in a specialized world. You need the specialist is going to be, I guess, a dime a dozen, just because everybody's doing it.
Right.
So the otherwise is missing. So you're gonna be much more in demand, much more needed in this world. But if you flip the other side, then it's the other would be true.
Yeah, that's fair. I like it. All very good thoughts. Blake, what do you got?
I mean, I think that, I think about being like a husband or a dad, and, how important it is to be a generalist when there's, a problem, or if there's something that needs to be fixed, and you can look at something, you can pull from all these other things that you've known or you've done before, and you can come up with a solution, just because you just have a lot of different things that you dabble with and dabble in. And I think too, I think like with specialists, I think like, if you are, I think there's maybe a lack of innovation or creativity when, it's like, this is what you do, this is how you do it, you do repetition, the same thing over and over, you become great at it. And I think that kind of that more generalist, being able to pull from all these different experiences, different ways to maybe look at things. I think there's a lot of value in that. I think I'm probably more of a generalist. I wish I was maybe a little bit more of a specialist in some areas, but I think part of that is finding that thing that you're really passionate about, that you want to put all those hours in. So, I agree with your reflection, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on everything there.
I'm with you on that as well. It's funny, both of you guys, make great points. And I think at the end of the day, this whole entire journey and clubbing and what we're all about is about balance and finding balance. And to True's point, and to your point too, Blake, there's always a mixture in between the two. If we were all a bunch of generalists, like, we wouldn't be able to feed the world, because you need agricultural specialists, as we grow and develop. That it helps to specialize. There's only the farming. I don't know, maybe 100,000 years ago, probably 90% of this population of the humans were probably agricultural farmers, as their trade. Now there's like 2%, but they feed more people than we have more food than we've ever had ever, kind of thing. So right. I see both sides of the coin here. I get discouraged by the idea of specialization. I think in our modern world, specialization seems to be the buzz, and all the rage. Like, everything you see is like, the more that you dedicate, grit, determine, 10,000 hours, like, we all hear this bullshit every single day. And for me, it gets frustrating going like, what I don't feel like I don't feel like specialization taps into what is uniquely special about humans, which is being able to take broad concepts and to turn them into creative new things. I feel like that's uniquely a human, as we talked about, in reflections past already, or maybe to come, we're the composers, right? As we talked about in the Entangled Life, like, that's kind of what our unique superpower is we're supposed to create, and to build new things, not we're not the beavers. We don't just dam over and over and over and over again, and that's our job. However, I think balance is important to balance all this stuff out. True to your point, if everybody was a generalist, specialists would be really important. And if everybody was vice versa, generalists become really important. I think the key is probably to embrace,
You got to embrace the right ratio, the
Right.
balance, the equation. Because, you're talking about wicked environment. A lot of these kind environment makes sense when you're doing like the Tiger Wood or something, playing tennis or whatever. You only applies to the kind environment, the simple environment.
Right.
But for the life is a wicked environment. So you can't say journalist is better than specialist. In a wicked environment, we don't know.
Right. I agree.
And that's applicable because we live life. Life is not an ideal world, right? It's not ideal. It's like, it's so dynamic. We don't know. Everything that we forecast is not hasn't come to fruition. And
Right.
and I think the reason for that is because you forecast something that is static, meaning, oh, because we consume this amount today, we assume that we consume the same amount next year, next 10 years, next 100 years. So we use this that assumption forecast, but the next day it changes. And so that's what wicked environment is. So as far as the which one is better, I think we just have to find the right mixture. I think just like you saying about the what was it, the organization versus the freelancer,
Right.
Why not both?
Yeah, right, exactly.
And so,
No, I was going to say that. Yeah.
So the thing is, for this, you need both.
Right.
Absolutely, you need both of them. You can't say one or other. So you can't encourage one to go with generalist or specialist just because you say one is better than the other. I don't think any is better. It has its own pros and cons.
It's about finding the right balance between the two of them to create something that's really magical. I almost, as we've been talking through this, I almost wish, this is one of the 16th book or whatever was the 16th reflection that I wrote. This whole entire journey is about, finding purpose, your values, and overcoming, loss and trauma. And as subsequent, reflections in the future have already been written, and as my thoughts have gotten a little bit deeper on this whole entire project, as I've keep writing. I think the answer that from what I'm hearing from you guys that I wish I would have written on this one would have been something, if I'm going to specialize in anything, I want to specialize in my particular purpose and my values, like, and that kind of accomplishes both goals, like you get to still have range because you have all different kinds of values you want to go express. But at the same time, like if I specialize in on my purpose and my values, like I can kind of, in a weird way, put in my 10,000 hours on my own values and purpose,
but at the same
while
time,
still being rangy,
Yeah, you think about range, right? Range, and so when you say range, I like range, but at the same time, you still can accomplish range by saying, okay, I am so specialized in one thing. But imagine if I say, oh, I bring other team members into this group, this team, and have other people specialize. And because we are so different in our specialization, we have range.
Yeah, range can be a group too,
right. So it's not to say, hey, range is only for an individual.
Right.
You have to have the concept of range, which you can bring in a bunch of people that are very specialized, and you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. It's all about, yeah, go ahead, Blake.
I was gonna say, do you think an NFL quarterback is specialized?
Yes.
Because it was interesting. I think it was a fact, like the last 4 quarterbacks that were left in the playoffs, they all were 3-sport athletes in high school.
It's ironic because actually he talks about this in the book. Roger Federer, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, he was very rangy. He did not ever declare. I have a really close friend of mine that he has 2 children that are, one's 10 and one's like 6 right now. The 10-year-old, I was talking to his wife, and she was like, we just really got to pick a sport. He loves all these sports, but we really just got to pick one now. Like these kids are being forced right now they're like, he doesn't know if it's basketball, if he wants to be baseball, but he's like, he's just getting too good for these other guys. And if you don't pick now, like you're screwed, and I'm like, that's like, then you go and look, and I in my head, I was thinking, well, shit, that sucks. Like, like, I mean, I don't want to be 10 years old and have to declare for the rest of my life that I'm a basketball player, and that's all that I could ever be. How the hell is he supposed to know what he really likes to do? And it made me think about, in this book, they talk about Roger Federer, and they talk about his parents literally encouraged him to go do all different kinds of stuff. And by, him combining all those other different skill sets of all these other different sports that he played, he was able to bring his unique. I don't know if either one of you watch tennis, but Roger Federer is a artist out there. I mean, he is just like, he like, there's something about it. He's thinking on a different world. He's pulling from different things in these kids that just spent all day, every day at a tennis camp, in Florida, for their entire life or whatever, where they're just robotic with their emotions. Roger Federer is adjusting. He's seeing things differently. He sees a different game when he plays, and you can tell that range being brought out in the way that he plays the game. And honestly, I don't think you could ever be truly great at anything unless you have that ability to put them both together at the same time. Again, it goes back to balance, Yeah.
It's sad that I think people are making kids because they feel like, oh, coaches think they're not dedicated enough, or that you're not spending enough time with, our sport, our team, that they want people to pick one sport. And I mean, if you watch football, like, Patrick Mahomes, like, he throws the ball sidearm. He does all these.
He's a baseball player. Yeah, all of his different throws came from him learning baseball when he grew up. Like, he was a baseball player. Yeah.
Well, so, the thing is,
don't want to over specialize where you just focus on, like, where you almost limit your thinking, and that's. I don't think specialization is bad, but I almost think over. I don't know if the word is over specialization, but I think that's what you want to avoid that, but also not be a generalist. That's just kind of like, I
don't know anything good, Yeah, that's a good point. It's a very good point. I mean, I think I think about my own tennis playing, like, these days. This whole journey has been enlightening for me and eye-opening for me, and I use a lot of the mental knowledge of how humans behave and to help me be better in my own game. Like, from the mental side of everything. Like, that's an important part of all this. If I hadn't gone on this journey, I would have never have improved in those areas and understood these other concepts to be able to then go apply it to something I already knew. I think the term is vujade, right? Not deja vu, but like doing the same thing you do all the time differently, like versus the opposite of that. That's a cool thing to be able to apply to, and you can only get that from continuing to learn and to grow and to be rangy. But to your point, Blake, you can still go apply that to something you want to get really good at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at the same time, we are actually trying to reverse engineers what we think is the formula, and I think it's just a guess, because, like I said, life is a wicked environment. It's so dynamic. We don't know. Maybe because these guys are already good at what they do, they have some kind of other ingredient, and range just happens to be along for the ride. So how do we know it's because of range? And so that's why I want to make sure that people don't take too much into this discussion. And so gotta try different things, but nothing's absolute. We don't know anything, because life is a wicked environment. So I just want to put that out there as a reminder.
we definitely have no idea what we're talking about, but Blake, I love the thought in general. You remember that? Did you ever see that 30 for 30 with that quarterback that was like, his dad groomed him from like age 5 or whatever to try to be like a professional NFL quarterback. He was like the number 1 recruit in college, but it's like he fell apart when he got into the pros, and now he's like a drug addict that, like, goes in and out of jail or whatever in Southern
Probably
California.
Ryan Lee.
No, it wasn't Ryan. It was you Google it. It was he was a quarterback at USC. It was a 30 for 30 about, like, we can look it up later, but when you get a chance, Google it, because his dad literally from the age of 5 said, I'm gonna make this guy into an NFL quarterback, and he like trained him, regimented him, did everything, weightlifting, like all this stuff. He was a robot. Like, he had no life, he had no anything, and then all of a sudden, when he finally was free from college and from his father, and he was a professional football player, he just went bananas, like just drugs and women and whatever. I mean,
life is unpredictable.
Right.
Right. You can't say I'm gonna plan my kid to be this NFL guy, right? Well, he doesn't want it.
You also look at Bo Jackson.
Yeah, well, that's true. Rangy, the rangiest sport athlete of all time, right? Like the guy was
We're talking about like, maybe less than 1%. Bo Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, these guys are like, how many among thousands of examples? You have to take the whole sample. You can't just pick and choose.
I mean, Michael Jordan was a professional baseball player and football player, and grew up doing other. I mean, hell, he got cut from his team when he was a kid.
But Tiger Woods never did anything else, and look what he did. So he was a
Yeah,
special. So
he also fell apart, and his whole life derailed, and
so there's a mental aspect.
What about Tom Brady?
I don't know what Tom Brady played baseball. He played baseball at Michigan, and hell, he was barely made the team. I mean,
exactly. I'm just saying, life is wicked.
It's interesting when you look
at the wicked environment. It's so dynamic, and the bottom line is
Drew Brees beat Andy Roddick in tennis when he was a kid growing up. Bet you didn't know that, did you?
It's interesting looking at the specialists.
So you gotta take a tennis player and you make him to a quarterback and see if he's good.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they did with Drew Brees.
If you do 100 for 100, I might say, hey, there's something there.
But look at the specialists. How you've seen a common theme of the specialists, how they have mentally, some of them, well, at least the ones we talked about, kind of have mental breakdowns. So I wonder if there's some correlation between if you hyper specialize in one thing, and then the mental stress and kind of losing it a little bit.
We're not robots, man.
So my thought on that is, it depends on if that's what you want. That someone else wanted for you, but is that what you want for yourself?
And then if it stops, what do you do afterwards?
Because if you specialize in something that someone else wants for you, for example, your father, then you're gonna have a mental breakdown.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not what you wanted. It's someone else wanted. So it's not fun for you. So to me, the key ingredient is something else.
It's specialize in your purpose is what it is, right? It's your purpose can be rangy. Your purpose is a mixture of all your values together, right? Like, so you have the range with your values, and then if you specialize in your purpose, like, it's not Todd Marinovich and his dad, that falls apart when he gets older, kind of thing. Because it's not him. Like, that was not his purpose. That was not his unique expression of himself out in the world. So yeah, true. Actually, I think, if I was going to rewrite this whole entire thing, it should have been specialize in your purpose, yes. I think that's a good, way to tie that all back together of, it's a balanced approach. Like, you're doing what you want to do because you want to do it. And then you're also being able to express however you want to express that, you don't have to do one particular thing to specialize in your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
what do you guys think? Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's like I say, it's very dynamic because there's a wicked environment. So when that happens, all you have to do is try and see what jives with you, and then follow that.
Agreed. Love it. All right. Good discussion, guys.
All right.
So for anybody listening out there, the question you guys can consider, are you a specialist or a generalist, or do you agree with this, or
both?
Or both. Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.
Mañana. All right. See you guys.